Hello everyone, my name is Flavio Pereira. I'm part of the Technical Enablement and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And today we're going to cover the lesson about Web Application Firewall. This is the lesson level 100, and we're going to cover a few topics on WAF. So the first portion of this lesson, we're going to talk about some WAF concepts and use cases. So when you can apply WAF, what exactly it is, what are the features that are available on Web Application Firewall and OCI. So to get started, you need to understand what exactly is Web Application Firewall, right? So when you expose a web application to internet, so you want to make sure that your website is actually protected against any people trying to hack or access your website in a way that will compromise the application. So WAF is actually a solution that can help to protect the website or your applications against any of those attacks and breaches that might cause some downtime on your workload. So WAF actually acts as a reverse proxy. So all the connections are inspected through the WAF, and then go through some policies and some controls that we're going to talk in a few minutes to make sure that it can arrive on the web application without any problems. So all the traffic will be inspected to make sure everything will be connecting without any problems there. So most of those attacks that you see out there are based on custom scripts that people deploy to inject when you open the browser to explore some vulnerabilities on the web application itself, and then the WAF will control that and make sure that you are protected and doesn't allow people use those kind of methodologies to get through the application. WAF is a web application firewall. It's a cloud-based, PCI compliant, that will protect against any cyber attacks, like I mentioned before. So this is OCI WAF. It can protect any internet-facing endpoint that can be hosted in OCI. It can be hosted outside of OCI. So if you have a web application running on premises and you want to deploy the WAF, you can do that as well, and then point the WAF towards to some of the public ending point of your application that are actually up and running on your own premises. So it's easy to use WAF to protect your application that way. So OCI WAF will provide you aggregate threat intelligence from multiple sources, including the web root Bright Cloud. So we work with some of the open source technology to actually provide you all the access control and the rules around your application. So you're going to see some of the rules that you can just enable and disable inside of a OCI WAF that can protect your application. So as you can see, you can onboard your applications to the OCI WAF, and will protect against layer 7 distributed denial of services attack. So any DDoS attack will be protected with the WAF. So here's some key points on the OCI WAF components. Like I mentioned before, it's supported some of the predefined rules. So we have over 250 predefined rules to protect your application. So you can just enable. That will cover some HTML injection and some other threats that are available out there. So cross-scripting, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, all those things will be protected against you. There's 250 rules that you can enable to protect your website. You also have the ability to use WAF to protect against some of the bots, right? So usually people will create some automation to try to break your website or break your application. You can implement CAPTCHA challenge. So if someone tries to access the website, they have to respond in some questions in order to get access to it. So CAPTCHA challenge you can enable that by default. You can also do device fingerprint challenge too, and whitelisting capabilities if you want to whitelist some of the public IPs that you know that is you can trust, or some applications that you can trust that can access your website without passing through a captcha or device fingerprint, so you can whitelist those too as well. So for those 250 predefined rules, we use what we call Open Web Access Security. So this is the OWASP secured model. So those projects can keep them rules always up to date with the latest attacks or latest robots trying to access your website. So it's always up to date. You can enable them and starting protecting your application against those threats. So here's the way it works, right? These rules, they are compared against incoming requests to identify the request that contains an attack payload. And it's determined that a request is an attack. The WAF blocks or send an alert about that request. So if that identify that there is a threat, there's a potential threat trying to get access to your application, WAF can just reply with an error message on the browser, say page not found, or some custom error message that you want to create, and then can send you an alert, and then you can see on the log files the IP that tried to access your website and it was blocked by that specific rule that you enabled. So challenge and whitelisting capabilities. I mentioned about CAPTCHA and some of device fingerprint and JavaScript challenge. So those kind of things are type of web challenge based of denial of services. So people try to create scripts that can be injected through the browser. And after receiving that HTTP request, this script will try to get access or do some, execute some script behind the scenes to actually get access to the application. So instruct the browsers to perform this action. So some browsers, some applications will actually do that in a legit way, and then you know which applications or which endpoints will connect to your application to do that in a legit way, and then you can whitelist those. But others can be using this to actually get access to your application in a bad way. So you can block those as well. CAPTCHA challenge, if you have some specific URL on your application that you want to just give access by a human, so you have to answer some questions in order to get access to it, so you can control that using the CAPTCHA challenge. And like I mentioned, the whitelist too, you can allow some of the managed IPs that from your environment or from some of your partners accessing your application, that you want to just give them access without going through the challenge that was enabled before. So last one, you have the user access control to actually restrict access to your web application. So as an example, regional-based access control is actually the ideal situation to keep your clients to access applications that are in specific region. So, for example, you can block access from other countries. Let's say you just want to give access for people that actually is navigating inside of the United States, and then you can just allow access to that and block all the other countries that trying to get access to your application. Or if you have a specific country that you don't want to give access to that, you can just enable all the to block all the access from that specific region. Okay, so this is a good way to control access and prevent people, bad actors to actually access your application and try to steal information from it. So that concludes our first portion of the WAF. I'm going to talk about the second portion in the next lesson, and then we're going to do a demo of WAF after the second lesson. So stay tuned.